Just to kind of wrap this up into where the Veterans Task Force comes in, as we know that the emotional, those tenants are the biggest factors in health. We also know that hopelessness, which is a spiritual trait, is one of the biggest factors. Helplessness and hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good with helplessness as far as finding that support, but hopelessness, I mean, more or less we're, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason Veterans Task Force and the churches are there is they can make up what the full-time installations have for the full-time that we don't have. And so having a church kind of maybe helping out the family, the spouse. Well, if the car breaks down, the husband usually takes care of that. Auto ministry in one church can help out the family. What about a babysitter? What about those holidays that are missed with the spouse?
Yeah.
They can invite the spouse to special events. Invite the family, help before with the anxiety with the family before they leave. Meeting with the pastor or counseling support, or with the expectations and the moral obligation that has to happen. When a service member comes home, help with the reintegration and help with that moral injury, because we're not built to take another person's life. We're not really built to really deal with the total destruction. And so when a lot of combat happens, I mean, it gets pretty spiritual. I mean, as the saying goes, there's no such thing as atheists in a foxhole.
Right.
I believe that being in combat myself, because you really get religious when and it's pray that
There
you
better be somebody
survive.
out there, something out there that's looking over me.
But even the aspect of, you hear things all the time, war is hell. It's a spiritual aspect. And he's just not the same as far as his emotional behavior, his the way he thinks, cognitive thinking. And the churches can support that, because now you have, through integrative care counseling and using all the ministries in care counseling and training them, knowing when to refer to psychologists and counselors, working with the VA, that approach and that healing with that social support, because you gain that partnership eternally in that social support. And actually, that's what they do. I mean, with the Christian faith, I mean, 1 Corinthians, it talks about being comforted so that we may comfort others. And that is something that we go through different experiences that we may help others in that peer support of that family to family, one family helping another through issues. Because you may have a person that's 100 miles away, a spouse, that doesn't have that, okay, she can't go out with her friends that are married because she feels that she's a third wheel. So, and she can't go out with her single friends because they're searching. And so, what do? They're kind of caught in between, and having that structure where the church continuously builds them up and fills in that void. And that's the purpose behind the Veterans Task Force.
Gabe, I know we're almost out of time, but I don't want to sidetrack this here. Can you mention the Veterans Courts briefly? Because we were there at the conference, and Judge Jordan, and what you're doing with the Veterans Courts, I think is something we need to support as an association, because it's similar to the mental health courts, and there is that overlap. And if we can expand the mental health courts, we can also expand the veterans courts, because our veterans are coming back and they're going to get into DUIs and all kinds of petty.
That's part of the behavior coming from a lot of the response coming in reintegration issues, trying to deal with those issues that they're going through. And that's what we're trying to help. And so we formed a partnership with the Veterans Treatment Court, because a lot of service members are coming back with domestic issues. And so either they're dealing with it through drinking, or dealing with it through drugs, relationship breakups. It's a situational one which they're not sure how to respond, and they will wind up having a domestic violence issue. And Veterans Treatment Court, Judge Jordan is one in Hingham County, one of the starters of it for Michigan. And he's accepting veterans that give them a second chance by working with the VA hospital and getting that, coordinating that care. And so we're working with them also to get the churches connected so that they have that social support to help them, because a lot of them don't have
And
insurance.
spiritual.
Yeah.
That's more important.
Yeah, the spiritual and the social and relationship issues, because that's what they need to work on, is their relationships. And who's better than talking about relationships than the church or the synagogue?
Does- Well, being connected to other people, I have a question to ask you. Oh, now, obviously, your experience is right here in Michigan. Are there similar efforts in the National Guard across the country, other states?
Not the same way that we're doing it, but there are a few states that are kind of dabbing into the church support. And they're recognizing that spirituality is a big aspect of it, but just figuring out how to work it.
But I mean, are other state, do you have counterparts in other states who are trying to attempt some kind of a program to help the National Guard, when they come back, or while they're there? I mean, in terms of dealing with the issues and maybe not necessarily in the same way you're doing it, but is there a counterpart to you in every state?
With my job in the military, yes, every state has one counterpart. So.
One counterpart.
Yeah.
I heard that, I heard the one.
One counterpart, I heard that.
Yeah, and, I mean, now we're getting staffed, but
Okay.
it's one person that controls that
Okay.
aspect of it. But as far as the Veterans Task Force, no. Michigan is doing their own thing, and it's a new concept, and this is, like one state, in fact, the pastor that did originally call us out there to help their church, he was moved to another parish in Virginia. And he started there, and the National Guard endorsed it, and it's taken the program. And basically, they basically have a submission process in which the churches apply and talk about their ministries and stuff like that. But that's something that Michigan didn't do, and in a way, it's not really hurting. It's because we're able to decentralize it and just training the churches and letting them do what they do best. And that's how people spiritual.
Is the Veterans Task Force under, or, I don't know if I should say under, but under the auspices of the National Guard? Or they are
No.
Totally
Separate entity.
a
Separate.
separate entity under the auspices of the state?
No,
No.
no, federal.
Nonprofit, just.
Nonprofit.
Just like us.
Like
Yeah.
us.
Like us.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. That's what I was trying to figure out. Who, if they are, they're not affiliated, but.
Yeah, and that way, the Army Reserve goes to us, the Marines.
So in other words, it's one of the hats you wear.
Yeah, off-duty yours.
And somewhat winding this up in two positive notes that I'm aware of. Recently, the Jewish war veterans honored our pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, Verlander, because the fact is, at the end of last year, he received $50,000 from the Detroit Tigers for the outstanding work that he had done. He, in turn, gave the $50,000 to the Veterans Administration,
The Veterans Hospital.
the Veterans Hospital, the cash. He's seen to it that when veterans comes to the game, Tigers games, and they're wearing their uniform, that they will sit in a designated suite at the game. He's also seen to the fact that, I don't know if you've seen it on the market or not, it's sold by Myers. He's got a cereal called Fastball,
Fastball Flakes.
Fastball Flakes. The profits from that goes to the veterans. That's one individual that's spoken of. I fortunately was asked recently to go to Washington DC, April 21st, to be a guide for individuals that served our military during World War II.